So there's a workbook with this program. If you have downloaded it, I just wanted to make it easy for you to have a way to make notes so that you can make sense of it after the class. You can all download it. Well, it's better if you have downloaded it. I'll cut this off the recording. Anyway, let's get started. I'm done. So, welcome to Introduction at Liberty using the HippoLogic Rectangle. The HippoLogic Rectangle is an exercise that I developed way back in 2016 when my horse Kira got laminitis. She hated round penning, she hated lunging, and I had to find a way to exercise her after we were done with the hand walking stage, after she just recovered from laminitis itself. And I figured out rectangle. I tried many shapes, but the rectangle is the most beneficial. I'll tell you why. So today I'm going to share with you what is at liberty to me. Why would we use positive reinforcement? At least I'm gonna explain why I like to use positive reinforcement in all my training and why I chose to, or how I came about to develop a rectangle exercise. And I'm really excited because I'm going to share how. I cannot go into the nitty-gritty of it, but basically this presentation today will be like module 1 of my At Liberty program. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sandra Poppema. I'm the founder of HippoLogic, and I help clicker trainers online improving their clicker skills. I have an HippoLogic Academy, and sometimes I offer online programs. So what is at liberty to me? To me, I'm Dutch, and if I would translate it, I would translate it with freedom dressage. And freedom because the horse can choose to be with you, to walk away. He's not coerced, not physically, but also not mentally. And that's what I like about At Liberty, because that is to me the summit of good training. If your horse wants to be with you, if your horse listens to your cue, and it doesn't matter if you have him like on a leash or not on a leash or lead rope, and that the horse also know that he can choose to walk away, that will not be punished. So to me, At Liberty, that's why it's so appealing to me. So to me it means freedom dressage. The second thing is that horses have a choice in the matter, and also it is a really good way to let the horse move without being restricted by a rider or maybe even an unbalanced rider. So you get a lot of feedback from your horse. Is he lame? Is he not lame? Is he happy clockwise and counterclockwise the same? What's happening? So that's what I like about At Liberty training. A fun fact, I just came across a video of Andrew Huberman. He is professor at Stanford University, and he was talking about mice and their exercise wheels. They have discovered, I don't know exactly how they discovered it, I will look that up, but he shared a story that they have like a mouse in a cage with an exercise wheel. Rodents love to use those exercise wheels just by choice. So what they did is, like, they had mouse number 1 in a cage, and the mouse could choose to do exercise. However, attached to his exercise wheel was another exercise wheel where they enclosed another mouse, mouse number 2, in their wheel. So whenever mouse number 1 started to exercise himself because he chose to, mouse number 2 started rolling, and he had to go with the flow. So he had no choice in exercising, and the conclusion of that study was that exercising by choice, choosing to exercise, has more benefits than coercive exercising. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that made so much sense, because my horse hated lunging. She didn't like it. It was really hard. I couldn't keep up with it, and it also didn't give me any results. I'll show you a video about the HippoLogic Rectangle. This is the HippoLogic Rectangle. I use only 4 cones. Maybe it's a little bit small, but this is a smiley. This is the trainer in the middle. The trainer only has to say, go around, go around, go around, go around. We don't have to walk with the horse. The horse is doing all the work, because I couldn't keep up with running along with my horse in a sandy arena. So I had to figure out, how can I make my horse do the work and I do less. So whenever you decide to do that, you have to put some training and effort in the training, so you benefit in the future from it. So first you have to spend some time on teaching your horse to walk, trot and canter along the track. But once you have done that, you save so much time, because the HippoLogic Rectangle doesn't include like a setup. You only need 4 cones. Maybe you have 4 buckets. 4 buckets will do as well. Let's get to a video. This is my horse Kira. This is a very old video, but this is kind of how I started. This is not the first video of training, but I do have the very first training session with my mini horse, so you can see how it's done. Because do not start with setting up 4 cones, because that would be like, okay, I have a green horse that I want to ride. Let's put on the saddle, the bridle, and let's go to a competition right away. That won't work. So this is the HippoLogic Rectangle. It's a very good way of exercising. As you can see, I hope you can see, there's not too much delay in the video. Kira really bends correctly at the corners. The straight long sides will allow her to go back to a straight line. You can add all kinds of behaviors with that, like head lowering. If your horse is like looking in the air too much, you can teach them to lower their head, and then they will feel it in their body what they are doing, and how much better it feels if they do it in a correct way. They learn to balance. There's many ways that you can use this exercise, and you start teaching your horse going around obstacles. Well, you start actually with another exercise. We'll come to that. So I always teach my horse to wait and stay with me. I call that key lesson patience. It's a key lesson because it's a key to success, and patience is just teaching your horse a default behavior. If I don't know what to do and I do want a treat, I will be standing next to you, instead of going through all the previous learned behaviors, like maybe you want me to pick up a ball, maybe you want to do Spanish walk, that kind of thing. I want my horse to keep calm and wait for my cues. So that's how I start. So why do I choose positive reinforcement? Like I said before, I like it when my horse has a choice, because when my horse really realize that they are also allowed to move away, they don't have to stay with me, they don't have to follow my cues. To me, a cue is a question. Would you like to do that for me, please? If they say no, you get valuable information. That's the second reason. You get valuable information about what your horse is thinking. With that information, you can change your training setup. You can change your cues. Maybe he didn't understand the cue, or maybe he's in pain and you have to wait a few days, or there's so much reasons why your horse says no. Maybe your horse says no because he is like, oh, look at that, there's grass, let's go over there. And that's not because he's not interested in you, but something else is more interesting in that moment. Then you can use that information to your own benefit to make training a win-win. So you get really honest feedback all the time from your horse. The third reason is that horses love it. Why? Because they experience that they indeed have a choice. Not all at liberty is freedom dressage. When I did rally, we did at liberty stuff, but the horse knew if I run away from you, there will be a negative consequence called punishment. So when you reminded the horse with your training stick, like, do not run away from me, they usually came back. Which the first time I saw somebody doing that, I was like, what? You're using your training stick and your horse comes towards you? That's because I didn't understand the principles that this behavior was based on. But it's basically avoidance learning and fear for repercussions of the trainer, that the horse decides to do whatever the trainer wants. But when you use positive reinforcement, there's no such thing. If the horse tunes out, if the horse walks away, it's all good. And you give your horse a choice. And in the beginning, when you're very new to clicker training, or when your horse is new to clicker training, click is treat, click is treat. And it's about the treats, because that's how you get their attention. However, once your horse has learned that he can do something to make you give him a treat, that gives him a feeling of control over his environment and over his trainer. Then it becomes a two-way communication. And horses and all animals and all individual living beings like to have control over their environment. And that can give a lot of confidence as well. So that's my personal reasons to use positive reinforcement training. Why would I choose the HLR, HippoLogic Rectangle? Well, first of all, my horse hated lunging. She didn't like to round pen. I didn't have all the equipment to set up a reverse round pen. And it got me thinking. I was like, she was recovering from laminitis. It was 2016. And I was thinking, how can I make this easy? Because she was willing to go with me on the street, walking straight lines. And then I realized circles are hard for horses. Circles are basically advanced, and I think they're very advanced because it's very unnatural for a horse to walk, trot or canter more than one whole circle. If I observe horses, they never do a whole circle. If they do, it's a really big one, and they never do it 2 or 3 or 4 times, let alone 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. Unless, the environment makes them do it, but that's a different story. By choice, they choose straight lines over circles. So reason number 1 is I had to figure out a way to let my horse walk, trot, canter straight lines, but without me doing the work, without me trotting along. In a rectangle, you have 4 corners. So you have 4 corners. I use cones, so let's stick with the word cones. And the cones give your horse a very clear visual cue. That's where I have to go. That's where the good things are happening. And if you train it in that way, your horse wants to go to the next cone and the next cone and the next cone because good things are happening. So you are using whatever they want to create what you want. The HippoLogic Rectangle number 3 it's a very versatile exercise. You can make it smaller, you can make it big. You can train so many behaviors. You can train walk, you can train stand, you can help them improve their balance, you can help them improve their bending around the corners. It's super versatile and it's all at liberty, so if it gets too hard or too challenging or maybe something is painful in their bodies, the horse is allowed to tune out and you get feedback how to make it better. The fourth reason is you don't need a lot of expensive equipment. And reason number 5 is it's such an easy setup. Like instead of building something, and especially when you are boarding your horse, like I have done for 30 years, I always had to clean up, like it didn't matter, all the jumps could stay in the arena, but my stuff always had to go. So, and then there's not enough space, it takes a lot of time, you cannot do it when other people are in the arena. All those reasons just made me not work at liberty. So when it started as a HippoLogic challenge, by the way. So when I wrote down that challenge, send your horse around 4 buckets, it is also easy because you can stack the buckets, you can stack the cones. It doesn't have to cost a lot of time to set it up and take it down. So let's watch a video of Fionn. It's my current mini horse. My horse Kira passed away due to an accident, but yeah, a video of let me see. This is a video of last year of my horse, mini horse Fionn. I'm teaching him the HippoLogic Rectangle. This is again a video of a result. So we don't start here. I will get into the how shortly, but just to give you an example of what it can look like and the things that you can do. I was making a video. So he's going around those 4 cones for just 1 click, and he goes around 4 or 5 cones. Now we built that duration, and this is how you slowly increase your criteria. Like you just get a bigger distance and also duration in walk if you just place the cones a little bit further apart. Whoops, there was 1 step canter, and that's also the beauty of positive reinforcement. You can immediately capture that with a click, and your horse knows, ooh, this is also an opportunity to earn clicks and treats. So you don't have to coerce your horse. The way I train the HippoLogic Rectangle is in a way that your horse is enticed to offer more speed, longer duration. I don't have to run along, and that's how I developed this. You saw him, if you paid attention. If you didn't listen to my story but you paid attention, you could see that he's skipping a cone. I let that slide because I was making a video, but I never let those mistakes slide. When that happens, I go back to the cone he skipped and I cue him to go around that cone. Then I make that cone super enticing to go around by giving him a few jackpots, and then he remembers like, ooh, I have to go around this one. Because if you let it slide and eventually you will click, your horse might end up thinking it's a whole sequence of behaviors. At the end, I get a click, and it started by skipping cone number 3, for instance. So we want to prevent that. We want to teach our horses they always have to go around the cones. Which brings me to another solution. If you don't have an arena, you can start doing this with in the paddock, like I am doing. I don't have an arena. So, and this brings me to the biggest pitfall that I see. I already talked a little bit about it. So this rectangle is representing an iceberg. Maybe you have paid attention in school, but maybe you know that only 10% is above the water level. 90% is under the water level of an iceberg. And that's really, really a big part. And I like this analogy from using the iceberg because I shared a video of the HippoLogic Rectangle, one of the videos that you just saw, and somebody was super enthusiastic. Send me a DM, here's a video, I started. But what she didn't know is the preparation. And this is the how. This is the part where I share you what to do to get to this result. Because if you're going to your horse today and you're setting up a rectangle, if it's too big, your horse will probably make a lot of mistakes. If it's too small, your horse will walk a circle because it's too small to have the straight lines. And when it's super small, your horse will circle around it, and you are asking your horse to do advanced stuff. You get cranky horses because it's super hard for them to do. So what is the preparation? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 6 things basically. Part of the preparation is the order in which behaviors are trained. I am going to explain that order. We use certain training techniques to help our horses to understand what it is that we want. And the more techniques that you have at your disposal, the clearer you can make it for your horse. One of these techniques is feeding for position. So if your horse is standing next to a cone and he has his head on your side of the cone, so he's not going around the cone, then you can feed for position. You can offer the treat over there on his side of the cone. And like feeding for position is super important in training the HippoLogic Rectangle. High rate of reinforcement. I have a video how to start. It's 2.5 minutes long and I click over 20 times. That was the first session that I did with my horse Fionn, the mini horse that you just saw a video of. I will show you his very first session. And it doesn't look anything like the end goal behavior, and that's often the case when we train behaviors with positive reinforcement. The training method is important. When you train with negative reinforcement and coercion, you can get the goal behavior within a few minutes. If you have a reluctant or slow horse, you have your training tools like a whip. You can make that horse go into a trot within a few minutes, within the first session. That doesn't happen with positive reinforcement. It will take longer. You have to set up the training tailored to your horse. You have to teach him some foundation things. However, maybe it takes longer in the beginning. It will pay off in the end. Trailer loading is a super clear example of people who understand what's going on. If you have a horse that is hard to load and you coerce him in the trailer, it might be 15 minutes. The next time it might be an hour. Maybe if he really, really hates it, all the things that were going on, or he got traumatized for one reason or another in the trailer, it can up to take to 2 hours or 3 hours. And every time you coerce that horse, you can make it worse. Not all horses, some horses are like, okay, I will be doing it. If you train trailer loading with positive reinforcement, you open the trailer, you walk past by the trailer and your horse is like, let's go into the trailer. So yes, you spend maybe a little bit more time, not necessarily, but maybe a little bit more time on the foundation and the basics, but it will pay off because you will never ever have to spend time on loading your horse. Same goes with exercising at liberty. When you spend time with the proper training techniques, you spend the majority of the time on the foundation and the rest will be easy peasy because your horse is on board, your horse knows what to do, your horse knows that offering behavior will often lead to good things happening. Another thing that here is in the preparation is some foundation training. I will tell you what basic behaviors your horse needs to know before you can start doing this. The better he masters the basics, the easier everything else will go. If you skip that part, it's like teaching a child to read, but you leave out letter A and the letter P and the letter Z, for instance. That child will never be able to read a whole book because sooner or later he will come across those symbols, and if they don't know what letters they represent and what sounds that symbol represents, that child will never understand the content of that text. The results and the preparation is also based on the experience of the horse and the experience of the trainer. So when I started Kira with the HippoLogic Rectangle, it was super easy because I had been teaching her everything with positive reinforcement for over 8 years. My horse Fionn was super new to clicker training. So I needed to spend way more time on the foundation and on some techniques to help him understand what it is that I wanted. So it's also the experience of the horse and the trainer that really, really is important. And this is all beneath the water level. So these are all things that you didn't see in the videos that I just showed you. If you ignore this part, but now you know there's always more, and you start to copy the result because this is the only thing you see, and you don't realize that there's some preparation going on, and you skip this part, your results will never look like the results somebody else's get. So my advice is to ask somebody, what is this? What did you do to get to this result? Because if you can copy this, it's way more likely to get this result than when you just try to copy that. And I've fallen into this pitfall. When I was like starting to ride in a riding school, there was a Dutch Olympic rider, Annemarie Sanders-Keizer, and she was such a unity with her horse. Just if I think about it, it was so pretty. So, and of course she was riding her horse on the bit. So when I went to my free leash pony, I tried to shorten the reins because now it looked like Olympic dressage. But probably all of you here on the call will know that I was doing this. I was just trying to copy what I saw because I had no idea that there was more. But now you know there's more, you can find out what that is. So keep the iceberg in mind. So let's get to the how to start the At Liberty rectangle. I have made the mistake, I realized this morning, to set up a rectangle because it is about the HippoLogic rectangle, but what I should have done, how to start, and I should have just drawn one cone. That's it. And before we can teach a horse to go around the cone, we have to teach our horses another behavior. What can that be? If you have an idea, put it in the chat, but the behavior that we need to train our horse to do is what I call a send. We have to send our horse away with positive reinforcement. When we realize that up until now, we have always reinforced our horse to stay with us. Because here is where the treats are, here's where the clicker is, here's where the trainer is, who hands out the treats. So one thing that we have been reinforcing over and over for our horses is to stay nearby, because good things are happening. Because we always have, even if our horse is over there and we have to go over there to offer them a treat, again, we are in close proximity. So first thing we have to do is teach a horse to move away from the trainer willingly and on cue. So the way you can do that is teach your horse, now we're coming back to the fundamentals, key lesson, mat training. When you teach your horse to stand on the mat, you can slowly place that mat further and further away and say, go to the mat, go to the mat, go to the mat. That is one way. There are more ways, but this is one way. If your horse already masters the foundation of mat training, that you can pick that behavior and teach your horse to move away from you and leave you. The beauty of positive reinforcement is you have your clicker, and if you don't have a clicker, you have your marker signal that you can tell your horse, yes, this is what I want. I want you to move away from me. The mat gives your horse clarity. It's a visual spot in the environment where to go, and it also marks the end of the behavior. So when your horse is moving away from you towards the mat, you can click, tell your horse, yes, I want to see more of this, and then you give your horse a treat on the mat. So you reinforce moving away from you, and you reinforce again standing on the mat. So that is how you teach your horse number one behavior, send. The second behavior in order to make a HippoLogic rectangle successful is to teach the behavior go around. Because we want to stand here happily and say go there, go there, go there. So the cones become a visual cue for the behavior go around. The better you define your goal behaviors, the easier it is to make a shaping plan based on your goals. So to me, my definition of ascent is that I can cue the horse to move away from me willingly and on cue to wherever I want him to go. So I already know he has to move away from me on cue willingly, because I want to see happy horses. Going around is, my definition of going around is that your horse walks away and keeps an object between him and you. That's his responsibility. So when I started to define it like that, it was way easier to come up with a shaping plan to teach this behavior go around. So I have a video of that behavior too. So this is a video of the very first training session of Fionn to get to this result. As you can see, it doesn't look anything like the end goal result, because that is often the case when you train something with positive reinforcement, because the horse has to figure out what is it that I have to do, because there is no coercion. The horse has to learn to think. And the beauty of that is once your horse realizes it, that he figured it out, he will never forget it, because he's the one that thought of it. Oh, I have to do this in order to get that. So in order to remember the iceberg, in order to just give you some heads up, to figure out and keep in mind that you have to copy someone else's process rather than the result to make you successful. You probably cannot hear the clicks, so I have made subtitles. And my rate of reinforcement, I click and treat a lot, almost every step. I use a hand target instead of a hand hold target. So targeting is another key lesson that I already taught him before I could teach him the behavior go around. So I click because he is moving forward himself. And he's making sharp turns, I realize that. But he's also walking around the camera because it was all frozen and there was like a track that I used to my advantage. And I'm already from the beginning in training session 1, and I'm starting this here, and I am lumping a bit so you can see that where it goes wrong. I'm already standing still and send my horse, because I don't want me to walk along, become a part of his cue. And I'm walking backwards to create that distance so I can click him for coming towards me, and then he gets a treat when he's near me. So here I'm lumping, I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, let's do more. I'm at a pretty big distance. The reason he's scratching his nose is because he's in conflict. He doesn't know what to do. And this is where I realize, oh, I'm asking too much, too quickly from him. So I'm going back to where he was successful. And I remember, because I was making a video for the purpose of a course. So, but then I realized, oh, I have to find the perfect ending now, because actually he did so well. He got this in 2.5 minutes, and I wouldn't say he is not smart, but he's one of those horses that has a really hard time to be flexible in his mind. He would be the perfect beginner horse, because once he has learn the behavior, that's it, this is the behavior, no matter what, I do this behavior. However, if you want to raise your criteria, he's like, no, this is the behavior, I don't understand what you want, this is the behavior. So for him, yeah, it's really good to realize that I had to go slow with my criteria. My other mini horse, he's like, okay, I've done this, now what? Can we do something else? So he's the opposite. He's more flexible mindset, where Fionn is more like a non-flexible mindset, a non-flexible learner. So in order to, instead of starting here, you start with one thing. You start teaching your horse ascent, go away. I have done masterclasses. You can find them on my YouTube if you want to see how to train the send. And then this was a video of how to teach a horse to go around. And then you can start combining that with 2 cones, 3 cones, 4 cones until you have the rectangle. But I would like to go back to the iceberg and help you realize what is the preparation, what is that 90% that you don't see to get to that result, because I bet you're curious about that. Because this is the most important part, because this is just the result. So check mark number 1 in your workbook, if you have the workbook, is you have to introduce your horse to positive reinforcement. I've seen people coming to me super enthusiastic, but they didn't do any positive reinforcement. If you train this with negative reinforcement, I bet it will be possible, but that's not how I train. So they get stuck and I cannot help them, because your horse needs to know how to do positive reinforcement, how to take initiative in offering behaviors, which is the opposite of negative reinforcement, where it's often punished when the horse takes initiative. Your horse needs to understand, or it will be super helpful if your horse already understands the concept of a cue. Many people think my horse knows 20 cues, but if you have to repeat your cue, you could ask yourself, does he really understand it? Because if you train him well, he will respond after one time of doing the cue. Once they can, because they already understand the concept of cues and have generalized this concept, it will make it much easier. It's not a necessity per se, but it's just part of the preparation. There are 4 key lessons that are really helpful. The HippoLogic method has 6 key lessons, and the key lessons are your keys to success and basic behaviors. They're super simple to teach. You can teach them within a few training sessions, and they will all get it within like 2 or 3 sessions, because the behaviors are easy, straightforward, basic behaviors. The first one is table manners. We have to teach the horse to offer safe behaviors around treats and training and food in general, because we want to keep our fingers and we want to be safe. The second one is what I call key lesson, patience. I would love it for all horses to have that as a default behavior, instead of throwing all kinds of behaviors at you. Do you want this or that or that? And the frustration level goes up and up and up. That your horse stands beside you, relaxes, because he knows this is his default behavior. I don't understand you, trainer. I'll go stand next to you, do my default behavior. And you can recognize that, give a treat and say, okay, this is my signal. You are telling me it's too hard, it's too complicated, you don't understand. Key lesson patience is also very beneficial and helpful to teach your horse to wait until you send him away. You don't want to set up all the cones and that your horse starts running already. You want your horse, ideally, to go around the cones, have a proper warm up and walk before you ask something else like trot or canter. Mat training, as I said, or targeting is number 3. As you saw, I used hand targeting, and when your horse understands the concept of targeting, you can use that as a training tool to train other behaviors. I use targeting to teach my horse to go around an object. And then mat training is very useful, like I explained earlier, to teach your horse to move away from you, to leave you, the trainer who he loves and wants to be with, his resource for treats. So mat training is really beneficial and can help you train that behavior of ascent. It can help you train distance between you and him. And by doing that, you give your horse confidence because he knows what the mat means, he knows what targeting means. So you can build up that 90% to make your horse confident about what is coming next. It's also very beneficial if your horse already knows the cues for whoa and walk on, because if your horse is at one point confused, or he doesn't see the mat, or the mat is just too far away because you just was a little bit too excited and put it way too far, you can cue him walk on, and he knows, okay, walk on, let's start walking and see what happens. And if he goes in the direction of the mat, you can already reinforce that with a click and a treat. So yeah, having a preparation of a horse that already masters these basic behaviors will help you tremendously in teaching the HippoLogic Rectangle. And then we have like a line. So once you have all this, you're ready to go set up your HippoLogic Rectangle. So the recap of today, what is at liberty? The foundation is, for me at least, that your horse has a choice, that it's like freedom dressage, that you get feedback from your horse, honest feedback. Especially I work a lot with people that have EMS horses or recovering laminitis horses, and the feedback from the horse is super important because one day they are pain-free and the other day they might not be pain-free. So all that information you can use in order to get your training set up the way that fits your horse best. The advantages, why positive reinforcement, you get honest feedback. It's super fun, it's really bonding time with your horse. It's super interesting to see how he understands your cues and how willing they are to do it. I really love it. And I love personally to watch my horse move. I love it. Why choosing a rectangle? The HippoLogic Rectangle has straight lines. Those are the easiest for your horse to start exercising. It's easy for your horse to understand what to do because it has those 4 super visual cues of those corners. After you have taught your horse to go over there, the sand, and go around an object. So now you know how to start, what pitfall you have to avoid. Don't try to copy somebody's results, but ask somebody what is the process, or figuring out what the process is. And the process can also be very personal. If your horse already knows mat training, target training, some other cues or other behaviors that you have trained that come in handy to tell your horse about the HippoLogic Rectangle, you can use that. You don't have to do it the way I do it, but the way I do it is based on helping many people and many horses. So I try to just gather all that information and have it all in there. So you have to always tailor it to your horse, but also to what is your specific training area look like. Do you have an arena? Do you have to figure something out? Be creative. In positive reinforcement, the more creative you are and can be, the easier it is to find solutions to help you get to your goal. So if you're excited about this, I got like 4 shaping plans. That's about, and each shaping plan has like 16 pages. So it's very detailed. I try to be as detailed as possible. That is my introduction in At Liberty training program. If you want to hear more about it, just stay for the Q&A. And let's go. What else can you do once you have trained your horse to go around 4 obstacles in a rectangle shape. You can teach your horse at liberty. I like to do a lot of free shaping, but it doesn't have to be free shaping, but you can teach your horse to bend properly, to use his inner hind leg to steer him around a corner. You can teach your horse trot, canter, so that you can exercise your horse with the HippoLogic Rectangle. You can teach them proper transitions, upward transitions, downward transitions. The beauty of how I train the HippoLogic Rectangle is that the click will become the message, yes, you are doing this very, very well. And what happens is that horses stop using the emergency brake once they hear a click. It's not that they're trotting and then it's like they hear a click and it's like so the way you train this is that you can get really nice downward transitions or upward transitions. And that's something that I didn't train deliberately, but that's something I discovered by training it the way I do. You can improve the balance of your horse because he has to bend, straight, bend, other way around, clockwise, counterclockwise, so it's a perfect way to exercise non-ridden horses. And it also doesn't matter if you have a really tall horse or a really small horse that you can't ride. Yeah, you can improve their balance. With Kira, I was starting to figure out how to train flying lead changes in the rectangle. That was super exciting. I hope to work on that pretty soon with Fionn. It's a great bonding time because you are communicating back and forth. Would you like to do that? Is this right? Would you like to do that? Am I doing this right? Or your horse is, let's do this instead. Or your horse may be having an idea. In the HippoLogic Rectangle of Fionn, you could see, oh, one step canter. Wow, you can click that and you can capture that behavior and you have trained it. So that's how easy it can go sometimes. But you can also set it up like that, so he will most likely offer more forward behaviors and increased speed. Yeah, and you enhance the horse-human communication because it's just so much fun because you get so much feedback and your horse knows that he is completely at liberty. He's allowed to express himself, which gives you a lot of information about what he's thinking, what he likes, what he dislikes. Like for Fionn, in the beginning, counterclockwise was really, really hard for him. So by watching my own videos, I recognized that he has a preference for clockwise and he doesn't like counterclockwise. So I had to figure out why that was. Well, he has one eye that he's losing sight. So, for instance, that could be one of the reasons that he just couldn't see me or my cues, and he had to kind of guess, where is that next cone? What do you want me to do? So there's all kinds of reasons for their feedback. If you want to know more about the program, I don't know if you can see this, clickertraining.ca is my website, /@-liberty. I will put it in the chat. That's where you can find more information about the 4-week at Liberty program. It's almost full. Today is the last day of the early bird. You can save $300 if you register today. We start October 13th and now we're ready for questions. I will stop the recording. It's my favorite part, questions.